Let's talk about Olympo, a show that drops us headfirst into the high-pressure, ultra-competitive, and often toxic world of elite athletes. It's colorful, it's steamy, it's intense, it's also incredibly frustrating. And that's not necessarily a bad thing if only it knew how to balance the chaos with real character depth. At its core, Olympo presents a world where perfection is not just expected, it's demanded. It's set in the lush yet isolating backdrop of the Pyrenees, at a high-performance center known as HPC Pyrenees, a training ground for the best of the best. This isn't your average sports school, it's a boot camp for future Olympians. The athletes who make it here are offered the prestigious Olympo scholarship, a supposed golden ticket to Olympic greatness. We're introduced to Amaya, our lead protagonist, and her circle of overachieving, hyper-driven friends, all of whom are giddy with excitement as they receive this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The premise is promising: take a bunch of ambitious teens, put them in a pressure cooker, add hormones, insecurity, and ruthless competition, and watch what happens. And that's precisely what the show does. But somewhere along the line, Olympo starts to unravel not just in the plot, but in its tone, execution, and character development. Let's give credit where it's due. The show starts off with undeniable energy. There's a sense of promise in the early episodes. The visuals are striking. The setting is vibrant yet chilling, which matches the show's dark undercurrent. From the opening scene, there's an adrenaline rush. You feel the intensity, the stakes, the anticipation. It's the perfect setup for a sports drama. The athletes are introduced through a montage of their skills and routines: synchronized swimming, sprints, dives, and rhythmic gymnastics. And honestly, watching these bodies in motion is mesmerizing. The cinematography does a fantastic job of capturing the physicality of the sports. The slow-motion swimming sequences? Gorgeous. The runners gliding across the track under golden sunlight? Beautiful. The choreography? Spot on. There's no doubt the show is cinematically appealing. If Olympo wanted to sell itself purely on aesthetics, it succeeds. The cast is stunning, the setting feels premium, and every frame looks like it belongs in a Gatorade commercial. But the deeper you go, the more you start to realize something is missing. Substance. Here's the real issue: Olympo gives us characters who feel like templates rather than real people. Each one seems to represent a type, not a personality. Let's start with Amaya. She's the show's anchor, or at least, she's supposed to be. A synchronized swimmer with a painful past and an obsessive drive to be the best, Amaya is meant to be the kind of character you root for. She's supposed to be the embodiment of resilience, grit, and ambition. But somehow, it doesn't click. Not because Clara Galle lacks talent. She's phenomenal in Through My Window, and her acting chops are evident, but because Amaya is written with very little emotional nuance. Amaya is hard to root for because she doesn't give us anything to hold on to emotionally. Her dialogue is often cold, her motivations are vaguely drawn, and while her ambition is clear, it's all she seems to have. There's no vulnerability, no internal conflict, and certainly no evolution that feels earned. She has tunnel vision, and so do the writers. Then there's the rest of the cast. We have the hot-headed male swimmer who's insecure about his standing. The gymnast who's clearly battling demons. The track runner who's masking something dark. The synchronized swimming coach who might be more predator than mentor. The hot lesbian romance that feels more like a fantasy than a real relationship. Everyone is dealing with something, and yet none of them feel three-dimensional. There's an interesting irony here. In a show that's meant to explore what it takes to reach the top, we get characters who are barely developed beyond their ambitions. It's as if personality has been sacrificed at the altar of aesthetics. You might think a show set in the world of elite sports would take some time to actually explore, well, the sports. But Olympo isn't interested in that. There are no real training montages, no coaching sessions with technical insight, no breakdown of what makes someone better at their sport. Instead, the show glosses over the hard work and discipline required to excel and skips right to the dramatics, sabotage, breakdowns, hookups, and betrayal. Now, that could work if this were Euphoria meets Elite, a pure teen drama with sports as background. But Olympo seems to want both. It wants the prestige of a sports drama and the sensationalism of a soapy teen series. The result is a jarring tonal confusion. Even worse, the show doesn't understand what makes competition compelling. It's not just about who wins or loses, it's about why they want to win. It's about the sacrifices, the relationships, the mental toll. Olympo touches on these themes but only in surface-level ways. Another glaring issue is the show's portrayal of the competitive environment. The stakes are undeniably high, but Olympo paints a picture where everyone is out to get each other. It leans into the everyone's toxic trope far too hard. Every athlete is a potential villain. There's no real camaraderie, no mentorship, no uplifting team moment. And while that can be an interesting subversion of sports tropes, it also makes for a very bleak viewing experience. It's almost slanderous to the actual spirit of sportsmanship. In real elite sports environments, there's tension and rivalry, sure, but there's also respect, discipline, and mutual growth. Here, there's none of that. Instead, there's backstabbing, drug use, manipulation, and emotional breakdowns. While the show tries to frame this as a gritty look at the underbelly of high-performance athletics, it ends up feeling shallow and cynical. Let's talk about the adult content. There are multiple episodes where you get 4 or more intimate scenes within the span of 40 minutes. And yes, they're beautifully shot. The chemistry is believable. But it doesn't add anything. It feels like the writers are compensating for lack of character development by throwing in steamy distractions. It reaches a point where the physical interactions feel transactional, meant to create artificial drama rather than deepen emotional bonds. There's a fine line between exploring youthful sexuality and overindulging in it for viewership, and Olympo crosses it frequently. A scene or two would be fine, but when it becomes the backbone of the narrative, you begin to wonder what the show is trying to say. Now here's where the show could have had a real hook. The Olympo Scholarship is presented as this mysterious, powerful opportunity. There's secrecy surrounding how it's awarded, what it entails, and what's really going on behind the scenes. At times, it hints at something darker: an institutional conspiracy, a power play, or a hidden agenda. But that's all it is: hints. We never get a satisfying explanation or payoff. The mystery becomes a background noise that never quite comes into focus. The final 2 episodes tease some revelations, but by then, it's too little too late. The audience has already endured hours of filler, and the answers we do get feel rushed and unsatisfying. Had the show invested in this core mystery, instead of stretching thin across half a dozen shallow arcs, Olympo could have delivered something unique: a suspenseful, emotional, and explosive narrative about the cost of ambition. Instead, it leaves us with more questions than answers. At 8 episodes, Olympo feels like a marathon that didn't need to be run. The conflicts, as dramatic as they are, could easily be wrapped up in 5 episodes. Instead, scenes are stretched, arguments are recycled, and subplots loop back on themselves. It creates a sense of narrative stagnation. By the time you get to episode 6, you're watching out of obligation rather than curiosity. The thrill is gone. The tension doesn't build, it plateaus. And even the grand finale fails to deliver the emotional or narrative punch you'd expect. Sure, there's a gorgeous swimming scene that almost redeems things, but even that feels like style over substance. That's the million-dollar question. Olympo is too shallow for hardcore sports drama fans, too disjointed for teen drama lovers, and too frustrating for those looking for character-driven storytelling. It's pretty to look at, yes. The cast is beautiful, the visuals are slick, and there's no shortage of visual appeal. But visual appeal alone doesn't sustain a show. If you're someone who wants a background binge with attractive people and drama that doesn't require too much emotional investment, maybe this is your summer watch. The English dub is surprisingly decent, so it's great for multitasking. But if you're looking for a series that explores ambition, pressure, and youth in a thoughtful way, Olympo isn't it. You're better off watching Spinning Out, Elite, or even revisiting Friday Night Lights. Olympo is a show that had all the potential in the world: a killer setting, a strong cast, and a premise that could have been something special. But instead of leaning into what made it unique, it drowned in its own vanity. Too much superficial drama, too little heart. For its stunning cinematography, excellent casting, and a few compelling visual sequences, Olympo earns a generous 2.5 out of 5 stars.